It was a warm March morning in the year 44 BC when Rome, the most powerful city in the ancient world, awoke to whispers of unease. The Republic was restless. Senators gathered, soldiers patrolled, and in the air hung the faint smell of blood yet to be spilled. In only a few hours, the unthinkable would happen. The most powerful man in Rome, perhaps in the world, would be struck down by the very people he had once called allies and friends. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar, and his death on the Ides of March would echo across centuries. But why would Rome's elite, the senators of the Republic, risk everything to assassinate the man who had brought them power, stability, and conquest? Why kill the savior of Rome unless they feared what he was becoming? To understand Caesar's assassination, we have to go back. Long before daggers flashed in the Senate House, Julius Caesar had been many things: a politician, a general, a reformer, and above all, an ambitious man. Born in 100 BC into the patrician Iuli family, Caesar was not destined to rule Rome. His family was noble, yes, but far from the wealthiest or most influential. And yet, from a young age, he displayed a dangerous combination of charisma, intelligence, and boldness that would set him apart. He survived Sulla's bloody purges, dodging execution by sheer luck and his mother's pleading. He rose in politics not through inherited privilege, but by building alliances and outmaneuvering rivals. Every step of his rise planted the seeds of envy, suspicion, and ultimately fear. By the time Caesar entered the political stage, Rome was already in turmoil. The Republic was not the glorious democracy of legend. It was a fragile system dominated by wealthy elites. It's plagued by corruption and shaken by decades of civil war. The Senate feared strong men who rose above tradition, men who commanded armies and the loyalty of the people. And Julius Caesar would soon prove himself to be the most dangerous of all. His early career was marked by bold decisions. As a young politician, he aligned himself with the populares, the faction that claimed to champion the common people against the aristocratic optimates. He delivered dazzling speeches, staged massive public games, and poured borrowed money into winning the hearts of Rome's citizens. He built a reputation not just as another politician, but as someone who could inspire loyalty among the masses. And when he forged the first triumvirate with Pompey the Great and Crassus, he showed Rome that he could outplay even the most powerful men of his age. It was a partnership of convenience. Crassus supplied money, Pompey supplied military prestige, and Caesar supplied the ambition to bind them together. But such alliances in Rome never lasted. As governor of Gaul, Caesar began the chapter of his life that would seal his fate. For nearly a decade, he waged war across modern France, Belgium, and beyond, defeating tribes, crushing rebellions, and even leading expeditions into Britain. His campaigns were brutal, tens of thousands slaughtered, entire peoples displaced, but they also made him a legend. The Gauls feared him, his soldiers adored him, and Rome watched in awe as reports of his victories flooded the city. His commentaries, written in clear, compelling prose, turned his conquests into propaganda, carefully shaping his image as Rome's hero. Yet with every victory, with every legion loyal not to the Senate but to Caesar himself, the Senate's unease deepened. Power in Rome was supposed to belong to the Republic, not one man. And Caesar was becoming more than just a man. He was becoming inevitable. The triumvirate collapsed when Crassus died in the east and Pompey drifted toward the Senate's camp. Soon, Pompey and Caesar, once allies, were bitter rivals. The Senate demanded Caesar disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar, knowing his enemies would destroy him if he complied, made the fateful decision to march his legions across the Rubicon River in 49 BC, declaring with his famous words, Alia iacta ista. Civil war consumed Rome once more. Caesar's genius on the battlefield carried him to victory. Pompey fled, only to be murdered in Egypt. One by one, Caesar's enemies fell. By 46 BC, he was Rome's undisputed master. He had won. But in winning, he set the stage for his downfall, because Rome was not built to be ruled by one man. The Republic was a system designed to check ambition, to spread power among elected officials, to prevent exactly the kind of dominance Caesar now represented. And yet, in practice, Caesar wielded absolute control. He was appointed dictator first for a year, then for 10 years, and finally for life. He filled the Senate with his allies, bypassed traditional checks, and made sweeping reforms. He reorganized the calendar into the Julian system, granted citizenship to many outside Italy, and tackled debt. To the common people, he was a benefactor. To veterans, he was a hero who gave them land and rewards. To the elites of Rome, however, he was a tyrant in all but name. The title king was hated in Rome ever since the early monarchy was overthrown centuries earlier. Romans prided themselves on never bowing to a monarch. And yet Caesar, with his perpetual dictatorship, his statues among the gods, and his portrait on coins, looked suspiciously like a king in everything but title. The breaking point came in early, 44 BC. Rumors swirled that Caesar intended to declare himself king, not in Rome, but in the eastern provinces, where kingship was still respected. Whether true or not, the Senate believed it. When he appeared in public wearing royal regalia, when he accepted honors that no Roman before him had dared, the whispers grew louder. And then came the Lupercalia festival. Before the crowd, Mark Antony offered Caesar a crown. 3 times Caesar refused, each time provoking cheers. But the very act of offering it confirmed the Senate's deepest fears, that Caesar wanted absolute monarchy, and that Rome's republic was dying. Among the senators, a conspiracy began to form. Men who had once fought against Caesar, men who had fought alongside him, even men he had spared and elevated all, joined in secret meetings. Their justification was simple. They would kill Caesar, not for themselves, but for Rome. The republic must be saved from dictatorship. Leading them were men like Marcus Junius Brutus, descendant of the Brutus who had expelled Rome's kings centuries earlier, and Gaius Cassius Longinus, a bitter rival of Caesar. For Brutus, the decision was deeply personal. He admired Caesar, may even have loved him as a father figure. But the weight of his lineage and the fear of Rome's collapse pulled him into the plot. Around 60 senators pledged to strike, and so the stage was set. On the morning of the Ides of March, 44 BC, Caesar ignored warnings. His wife Calpurnia had dreamed of his death, so vivid she begged him not to go to the Senate. A soothsayer had told him, "Beware the Ides of March." Even his friends urged caution, but Caesar, ever confident, dismissed them. Was he not the master of Rome? What threat could these men pose to him now? So he entered the theater of Pompey, where the Senate was meeting that day. As he took his seat, the conspirators gathered. At first, they surrounded him under the pretext of presenting petitions. Then suddenly daggers flashed. The first blow came from Aurelius Casca, striking awkwardly at Caesar's neck. Caesar struggled, fighting back, crying out in shock. Blow after blow followed. He saw Cassius. He saw Decimus. And then he saw Brutus. Ancient sources say his final words were "Et tu, Brute?" You too, Brutus? Though others claim he said nothing, covering his head with his toga in silence. Either way, the sight of Brutus among the assassins broke him. He fell beneath 23 stab wounds, bleeding to death at the feet of Pompey's statue. It was a bitter irony. Caesar, conqueror of the world, killed not by foreign enemies, but by the very republic he claimed to serve. The conspirators thought they had saved Rome. They imagined themselves hailed as liberators, like their ancestors who had expelled the kings. Instead, chaos erupted. The people mourned Caesar as a martyr. His funeral turned into a riot when Mark Antony inflamed the crowd with a stirring speech. Unveiling Caesar's bloody cloak and will, the mob hunted down the conspirators, forcing them to flee. Far from saving the Republic, Caesar's assassination destroyed it. Within a few years, civil war erupted again, this time between Caesar's supporters and his killers. Out of the ashes rose Caesar's heir, Octavian, later Augustus, who would become Rome's first true emperor. The Republic the assassins tried to save was gone forever. So why was Julius Caesar assassinated? It was not simply because he was powerful. Rome had seen powerful men before, It was because he shattered the delicate illusion of the Republic. He concentrated too much authority in his hands, challenged too many traditions, and made himself indispensable to the state. To the Senate, he was no longer a protector of Rome, but a threat to its very identity. And yet in killing him, they achieved the very outcome they feared. They killed a man, but in doing so, they killed the Republic. Caesar's death was not the restoration of liberty. It was the birth cry of empire. And this is the great irony of history. The assassins of Caesar believed they were preserving freedom. Instead, they opened the door to Augustus and centuries of imperial rule. The Ides of March became a warning etched into history that ambition, fear, and betrayal can topple even the most brilliant of Menand, that sometimes, in trying to save a system, you only hasten its fall. Caesar's ghost would haunt Rome for generations, a reminder that one man can change the fate of the world, that no empire, no matter how mighty, is safe from the blades of its own defenders.